Christina.
My name is Timothy.
My name's Naberto, and to be honest, I've been homeless, I'd say, for about 4 or 5 years.
I grew up in an abusive situation. I was right across the street from the projects, so it was just a lot of drugs and violence always constantly going around.
I wasn't really depending on Dad. Dad was still on his drugs, doing his thing with his friends and whatever. He kicked me to the side. Pretty much said, you're grown enough now. You're a teenager, you can do what you have to do for yourself. You don't need me anymore.
My mother ended up kicking me out because she has a boyfriend, so she didn't want me around anymore.
I was pregnant at the age of 18, and by the age of 19, just went about doing the shelters.
You don't have any idea of what homelessness could mean to any individual particular person. It just, until it happens to you.
It was a Monday night. It was cold out. I did not get a spot in the warming center, so I went over to Y2I and hoped that I'd get a bed there. I did not get a bed there. I tried for their last call bed. I did not get their last call bed. I also tried a shelter called HSHS, which is the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter. They do a lottery system for their emergency beds. I did not get an emergency bed, so I ended up sleeping on the streets that night.
Well, there's a lot of youth that are homeless right now, and they tend to be scared or nervous about certain shelters due to like adults and addicts.
I don't do adult shelters. Something bad happened in there, so I don't want to go back there.
I was just desperate to have somewhere to go and know that I was safe and okay at the end of the day.
There's a big epidemic right now with youth. It's not even adults. A lot of youth are homeless.
We've been thrown into a bad situation unexpectedly.
The biggest thing is just making sure we have somewhere to sleep even in the summertime, because even in the winter, we're not guaranteed a spot to sleep.
It's easy to give up, and it's easy to lose hope.
You can talk all you want about it, but if you haven't lived out there, you haven't gone without sleeping, no meals, you can't really talk about it, you know what I mean?
Even if there was another place that could be opened, somewhere that was additional to the few that we currently have, there are so many of us that have nowhere to go.
I got a job at the hotel in Copley, the Midtown Hotel, as houseman, full-time, 40 hours a week. I'm glad about that. And GED, about to graduate.
I'm hopefully gonna receive my degree next spring. My degree's in psychology, so I want to work in a psychiatric hospital.
I created my own business, and at this point, that's what I'm developing.
I'm working towards receiving my high set.
I have an interview today at 1, so that's a step.
I don't necessarily know if I feel positive that it's all gonna work out, but I'm hopeful.
Keep your head up, push forward, that you will find a way and you will make it to where you need to get to.
Just support us and know that we're trying our best to do everything we can to survive.
Preston, Amani, Christina, Timothy, and Roberto share 5 sobering stories and glimpses into the lives of more than 4.2 million young people experiencing homelessness this year alone. This day, this effort, this work, it's for them. Good morning. My name is Melissa McDonnell. I'm president of the Liberty Mutual Foundation. It is my privilege to welcome you to our celebration honoring 19 awesome community partners. I feel particularly honored to co-host today's event with More Than Words senior partner Amina Johnson, Having worked her way up the ranks at More Than Words, Amina hits business goals, leads work shifts, and mentors newer staff members. As part of her U job, Amina is stably housed and is saving up for college. Please join me in welcoming Amina Johnson.
Thank you, Melissa. David Long, Mayor Walsh, community leaders, and friends, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to join in welcoming you here to my place of business and thank every one of you for caring about youth who are unstably housed or homeless. I stand here today as living proof of the power and potential of homeless youth and how your work matters.
We too at Liberty Mutual know that your work matters. Each program celebrated here today furthers one or more of 5 goals to address and end youth and young adult homelessness. First, early identification and intervention. Second, permanent connections. Third, stable housing. Fourth, mental and physical health. And fifth, education and workforce development.
I know that these goals are important. Starting around 10, my family lost housing and had to move into a shelter. For a long time, I was moving around a lot with my mother from shelter to shelter, scrounging for food. This lasted a long time till just this year. During this all, I worked hard to stay in school, even though my mom didn't really seem to care. But it was just too hard, and I dropped out in the 12th grade. I almost made it. About a year ago, some family friends helped me find Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Everyone at Bridge was really nice, and I got involved in their GED program. I was able to finish my schoolwork and earn a GED. They also told me about job training here at More Than Words. After a bit of convincing, I did the application. I love to work. I'm not really much of a talker, so I've learned to get out of my shell in customer service, on the phone, or as a shift leader. I've earned promotions and learned how to give feedback to my peers as a shift leader in the business. But even with all the support, homelessness was still making it hard for me. That's the problem. It can make your life chaotic even when you're trying to get it back on track. I had to buy a backpack to carry all my possessions with me every day and everywhere I went. I lost a lot of my things and all of my winter clothes. That's when More Than Words and Bridge selected me for a new housing program supported by Liberty Mutual. And now I'm living in my very own personal room while I save up for permanent housing in college. When I first got there, all I wanted to do was set up my stuff. I wanted to decorate my door and get a fish. I'm gonna name it Gwendolyn. Thank you, Liberty Mutual, and everyone here for supporting Bridge, More Than Words, and homeless youth. There's another person I'd like to thank. He has stepped up with resources, people, and personal involvement. I am very proud to introduce Liberty Mutual's chairman and CEO, David H. Long.
Yeah, I know that clapping's for you. No one ever claps when I speak. So, Amina, you are actually the heart of why we're all here today. And I appreciate you co-hosting with Melissa. And thank you for sharing your perspective. And most of all, thank you for the inspiration you bring to all of us in this room. Okay. Mayor Walsh, Megan, community partners and friends, today is a very special day for all of us at Liberty Mutual. Today we celebrate extraordinary community partners doing exceptional work on behalf of and working alongside youth experiencing homelessness. And while we've come together several times in different settings over the past year or so, today feels a little different. Today we have a newfound momentum. Last year we celebrated the opening of Liberty House, the home purchased for Bridge Over Troubled Waters youth who would be attending college and apparently buying fish. I was a little disappointed when I heard Amina whisper the name of the fish and it wasn't David H. Long, but anyway. We celebrated when this new space opened here at More Than Words, nearly doubling the potential number of young people employed. And then last month, Mayor Walsh awarded $4.7 million in grant funds to create 157 new housing opportunities dedicated to serving homeless youth and young adults. Thank you, Mayor. So today, Liberty is putting a $5 million stake in the ground on behalf of young people who are homeless, who fly under the radar, who are exiting systems of care, who are disproportionately LGBTQ, and who have been kicked out and let down by people and places. We often say at Liberty that progress happens when people feel secure. Young people who have to worry about their next meal can't focus on fulfilling their dreams. Young people who have to spend their day searching for a bed can't focus on school or career planning. Young people who must manage trauma on their own, on the streets, must focus on how they will survive, not thrive. We know that youth experiencing homelessness need trusting relationships, they need trauma-informed programming, they need education and employment, they need and deserve the chance to thrive. Mayor Walsh, we thank you for your leadership and we thank your staff for their deep dedication as well. We all know, I've said it before, that young people experiencing homelessness are often hidden in plain sight, but they've never been hidden from you. To our 19 community partners, on behalf of all of the young people struggling to survive on the streets today, who, because of you, will be able to confidently pursue their own tomorrows, I thank you all.
Thank you, David. I'm proud to introduce a true advocate for youth experiencing homelessness. Under Mayor Walsh's leadership, Boston created its first action plan, Rising to the Challenge, to prevent and end youth and young adult homelessness. Today's grants were inspired by this plan. The plan is the result of input from Youth Action Board, the city's advisory group of youth and young adults who have experienced homelessness or housing instability, together with 240 community members, representing more than 110 public and private organizations across Boston. Mayor Walsh, I was personally honored to serve on the executive committee alongside the YAB and so many thoughtful and committed community leaders. Special thanks to Chief Dillon and Chief Martinez and your awesome teams. You all reminded me of the greatness of public service. And at the helm of it all, the mayor of the city of Boston, Mayor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Melissa, and Amina, you are awesome. You are awesome. You are awesome. Thank you. And David said it the best. We do this work, and I do this work because of you, to the young people in our city. I have remarks here, and I'm kind of completely blown off. I missed the video. I apologize. And we had a cabinet meeting back in the office, and right now I don't know. I'm just overwhelmed. I'll come back to my thoughts in a second. To Melissa and what she does at the foundation, I just can't thank you enough. I'll talk more about that. To David Long and your commitment to homelessness and the kids is amazing, and your company's commitment to homelessness, and I'll talk about that in a minute. To our partners here, to More Than Words, to Megan, to the young people that work here, to the other organizations that are here. There's so many other organizations that do this work every day. Thank you for what you do every day. To Sheila Dillon, Chief of Housing in the City of Boston, when we started talking in 2013, what happened in the city in 2015, I was at a meeting at the White House, and Michelle Obama challenged us around America to end chronic veterans homelessness, and we had done a lot of stuff up to that point, and She said, any city in America is going to take this on, raise your hand. So I raised my hand, and I had no idea how I was going to do this. I'm like, I'm going to do it, we're going to do it. And I came home, and I said, Sheila, we have something to do. And she goes, what is it? I said, we have to end chronic veterans homelessness. Okay, well, we have the term to do it. I said, no, by the end of the year. And we put a plan together, and we hired Lila, and we started to work together towards doing that. And then we started looking at individual homelessness and ending chronic homelessness. And then I stumbled into Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and I was at an event my first few months in office, and I was at an auction, and I said, we have to do more. We're not doing enough. And the momentum started down the road. And Marty Martinez came on board afterwards, and we talked about how do we make sure not just housing young people, how do we make sure they have the supports and the supports they need, the health supports and things like that. We started working there, and then we found, and I knew this already, there was amazing partners in the city of Boston already doing this work, and how do we collaborate together. So this has taken a lot of organizations to do this. Congratulations to the organizations. I'm not going to talk too much about. I do this work. I'm the mayor. I run for mayor. I ran for mayor because I love helping people. That's honestly why I ran for mayor of Boston. I didn't run for a name, a bridge after me, or a building after me. I didn't do that for that reason. And one of the things when I'm done as mayor, many years down the road, is looking back and seeing what we've done here on homelessness. And on youth homelessness, and thinking about how do you do it. And it's not me. It's an administration that works collectively together. But it's also having a partner like Liberty Mutual, like Melissa and David Long, who never say no, who say, how do we make it happen? Most people look and see a commercial on TV and see the Liberty Mutual commercial, and they see the emblem. And what they don't see is the little sign next to the emblem with the house and the heart in it. They don't see people coming to More Than Words and hearing about a grant proposal that's going to make a real impact in people's lives. They don't go to Liberty House in Dorchester, literally, which is about a 3-minute walk from where I grew up, the house I grew up in, and see young people that are going to have a chance to live there and go to college, that have incredible stories. And those stories aren't like those stories aren't fairy tale in the beginning of their life, but they become fairy tale because Liberty Mutual has made a decision as a company to focus on homelessness and to help organizations like Bridge, like the city, like More Than Words, and so many other organizations, Pine Street and other organizations that they've helped. We can't do this alone. You can't do this by government alone. It's not going to be done by government alone. We need the private sector to be with us in this. And this is one of those amazing cases that the private sector is there for us, and is really committed to it. This isn't people sitting in a boardroom checking the box off of what donations should be made and maybe getting some credit. They've made an actual investment, not just in financial dollars, but in the company's DNA. And I want to thank Liberty Mutual for that, because we can't do this alone. I was at a meeting the other day. David happened to be at the meeting. And there was a lot of business leaders in Boston, and we were talking about who we are as a city. And there's, in this world right now, there's a lot of kind of upside downness, if you will. But those people that were at that table are the folks that want to invest in our city and help us on the social aspect of our city, to make sure that when a young person walks through the front door here at More Than Words, not only are they learning entrepreneurship, learning how to run a business, learning how to run a corporation, quite honestly, here at More Than Words. And if it's your first time here, go around and talk to the young people. But they're getting skills that they otherwise wouldn't have. A lot of us are late bloomers. I was not a scholar when I was in grammar school. I was not a scholar in high school. And I certainly wasn't a scholar when I went to college before I dropped out of college. But what it was a lot of hard work and a lot of people that cared about me, that wrapped their arms around me to make sure that I was able to move forward. What young people need is somebody to understand that they're loved by people. And we want all the young people in this place to know, you might not know anybody in this room, but we love you. David Long loves you. Melissa loves you. Liberty Mutual loves you. Other people love you. That's why we're here today. And I just want to end by thanking you, David. Thanking you from the first day I met you. And I met Melissa before I met you. And I want to thank, this is not a one time when David and Melissa leave here, then they go into their corporate world and don't think about this. They're constantly thinking about how do they improve the lives of people, and particularly young people. And the grantees, congratulations to all the people here. Thank you for your work. I know that sometimes, and I had a moment this morning at my cabinet meeting, sometimes we have this kind of, we go through cruise control in life and we don't know if we're making an impact on people. But each and every one of you in this room, I want you to realize this. When you go home or when you get a chance to look in a mirror later on today, look in that mirror and understand that you've made an impact in someone's life. And you can make a difference in somebody's life. And let's make 2020 that year that we house as many young people as possible to get our young people out of the shadows. And then we're going to continue to work towards ending homelessness in the city of Boston. And we're going to continue to work with all of our partners to make sure that anyone who needs help, that we help them. Because there's a time in each and every one of our lives in this room, it doesn't matter what it is, but there's a time in each and every one of our lives that we need somebody to help us. Every single one of us, whether you're the CEO of Liberty Mutual or you spent the night across the street on a cot. We all need somebody to show us that way. So again, to all the people here today, thank you so much. I completely didn't go off my talking points. I don't know if I was supposed to. But we are going to continue to work to end homelessness in the city of Boston. And we are going to continue to be a kind of an opportunity for other places to look and see, what are you doing in Boston? It's pretty simple. You have a loving community, you have incredible nonprofits, and you have a corporation that is all in. That's the magic formula. It doesn't take a genius to create it. It just takes a lot of loving, compassionate people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Walsh. And now I'm extremely pleased to introduce our featured speaker, a woman who has led a national collaboration of organizations who work to end youth experiencing homelessness. Please join me in welcoming the director of Away Home America, as well as author and advocate, Ms. Meggard Gibbon-Klein.
Hey, everybody. I just have about 45 minutes of remarks, so just sit tight. Thank you so much for the warm invitation, and thank you for having me. I want to say we have never been closer to ending youth homelessness, and you all in Boston are particularly well positioned to get it done first. And you say nice things when you go to speak places, but I want to say authentically, you have a magic formula. Here in Boston, Liberty Mutual is an incredible company with people who really do care, and you are very well positioned to end youth homelessness. So that's the challenge in front of us. If you are new to Away Home America, I want to talk very briefly about what it is we do. We are an initiative to build the national movement to end youth homelessness. And we are made up of national advocates, young people, service providers, researchers, all coming together behind that goal. And lots of things I could say, but what I want to say is that we have a fundamental understanding about how we do this work. And the key part of that understanding is that if you center the leadership of young people, if you center racial and LGBTQ equity, you create a condition that is fundamentally different, that releases innovation, that actually gets the work done. So what we're about doing is creating conditions for the change to emerge, and that has to include centering the voices of young people, the leadership of young people, and equity. So we've been around since 2016. I won't go into all of this. I want to highlight one thing that we did last year because it's how we aim to live into our values of justice and equity. The steering committee of Away Home America, which is 30 national leaders, all decided to collectively push back from that table and create spaces for young people with lived expertise to lead. So that's a big deal. 30 national leaders who are important people that show up to important things said, you know what, we actually want a leadership body of 15 people. 8 of those should be young people with lived expertise. And here they are the founding 8, and they are awesome. More on our leadership body in the coming year. I actually want to skip this and say very briefly, I'd love to talk with you more about this. Away Home America has an emergent theory of change where if we are creating conditions for a thing we have never done before to be true, right? We have not yet ended youth homelessness. We have to lean really hard into emergence. It's not a line where we say we do these things and then the output is ending youth homelessness. We actually have to work at creating a new thing. So I want to move now to how we understand the work, and I'm here to offer a little bit of national context, I think. I'm here to wow and entertain you. But what I want to do is, from our position nationally, give some context about what the movement is. A lot has changed in the last 4 years. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and it's embarrassing because we haven't done it yet. So any of us in the room who have done this work for a long time should take a big dose of humility. Everybody in this section getting big grants, because we haven't done it yet. So we need to keep pushing. We used to understand youth homelessness as a technical problem. So we didn't think that we could end youth homelessness. And so it was sort of like baking a cake. If you sort of take these ingredients and you combine them in the same ways, you're going to get a cake, right? Youth homelessness is not a technical problem. And it's not, in fact, a complicated problem. If you go to the moon, you sort of combine all of these things in the same degrees, and you get to the moon every single time, right? It's a dizzying array of problems, but you're going to get to the moon every time. What we understand today is that youth homelessness is a complex problem that requires a system response. And we in this room have only one goal, and that goal is to end youth homelessness. It's not to do better. It's not to do good stuff. It's actually to eradicate this problem as we understand it today. It's a lot like raising a family. So if you are a parent, you can't do the exact same thing with the first kid as you do with the second kid and get the same kid, right? Like the context change, you change, the child is different. To end youth homelessness is a complex problem like raising a family, where we have to become adaptive problem solvers that change based on the conditions changing and continue to try new things. We've also got to lean into failure. Boston is a city of very strong, I think maybe perfectionist people, so we're going to talk about that leaning into failure in just a moment. So in summary, we used to think more is more, right? Like we're going to do all the things that we're doing today, but we're going to do more of them, and that's going to be better. And we do a lot of good things. We should do more of them. We should have more shelter beds, more housing beds. But what we understand today, and this is the fundamental shift, is that to end youth homelessness, we have to build a system. The easiest way to think about that is a bathtub, right? There's water that comes into the tub, water in the tub, what exits. We have to be responsive as a community. No one program can do this. As a community, Boston needs to be responsive to who is experiencing homelessness, how long are people experiencing homelessness, who's exiting, and who is returning. No one program can hold that responsibility. This entire room has to create the system that is responsive to that problem. So the short thing that I want to tell you about the context that's changed is two things. One, the goal is now to end youth homelessness. It's not just to do good stuff. The second thing is that we have to build a system that responds to youth homelessness. And maybe the third thing is that equity and youth collaboration are the key tenets of that system that we have to build. This is just an illustration of 4 years ago, there was nothing on this map. There were a lot of programs doing good work, and that's profound. So I'm not minimizing that. What I want to highlight is that there are over 80 communities that are now involved in system building efforts to effectively end youth homelessness across the country. Obviously, Boston, you are here and strong and involved in multiple efforts. What I want to illustrate here is that the context has radically shifted, and that 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there were not these efforts combining the entire community in new ways, and that's awesome. I want to drill down into something that is a bear throwing money, if you're in the back. Two things kind of by illustration that we're paying attention to innovative practices that are emerging. One is that for a number of young people, this is not going to work for every young person, but there are some young people experiencing homelessness for whom money is going to solve the problem. How can we work with young people and say, what would solve this problem this week? Is it money? Great. Who needs that money? Where can we pay rent to? What is the thing that you need? And let's be flexible about how that happens. The second thing that we're paying attention to, there's, gosh, I'm forgetting the flexible cash diversion. What is it called? Unconditional cash transfer is something that we're piloting in New York City, which is really interesting. I know Boston has really been engaged in how do we do this really flexibly too. We're paying a lot of attention to that. The other thing that we're paying a lot of attention to is communities that are really doubling down on racial and LGBT equity and youth leadership, saying this is not just a cool thing, this is how we're going to get there. So how do we really live into that value of the system? All right, so this is my favorite GIF of, I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it GIF or GIF? Does anybody know? GIF? Thank you, young person in the front row. It is my favorite. What I want to do right now is be the wind in your hair, the wind beneath your wings. I want to celebrate you all in Boston so that you feel like this chihuahua in the wind. Chihuahua? Honestly, heartfelt kudos. Again, this is an unusual community. Liberty Mutual is a tremendous company, and you all are incredible providers on the ground. So there is a condition here that a lot of communities don't have. You all have a remarkable resource in this room, so I want to just celebrate you for that. The second thing that I want to do is congratulate you for your youth leadership work. And I know that work is hard, and you're not there yet. You don't arrive with youth leadership, right? But you were recognized, Boston, by the True Colors United for your work in your Youth Action Board. Keep going. Keep struggling at that. And it's a principled struggle to do that work. And the other thing that I see in Boston is that you all understand the power of campaigns. So that young people, providers, communities, when you come together in relationship behind a gut-churning goal, that creates urgency that allows a new thing to be true. So thank you for understanding that power. Keep at it. That's unique. That's unique here in Boston. And then as grantees, I think this is the grantee group, right? You all have received big grants. I want to say that all of you have said not only what is the work that I'm doing in my agency or in my program, but what is the work that's tying to our community and tying to this initiative, and that's really profound work too. So keep at it, and it's impressive. I want to offer a little bit of parting advice. Maybe it's the top of the year. Maybe we're all feeling particularly reflective. I don't know. First is that young people change everything. And so when young people have actual decision-making ability, that creates conditions that are fundamentally different than what exists today. So keep at that. It's hard work. Nobody has it figured out, but that it is fundamental work. The second is that, no surprise, I would say this equity is necessary to reaching our goal, particularly when young people are giving advice and perspective and direction to the system about where we are and are not meeting those goals around equity. Listen. And that gets down to everything that we're funding. Does it work best for Black and brown young people? Does it work best for LGBTQ young people? And how do we know that? Those are the young people most likely to experience homelessness. Targeted universalism. Build the system around those young people. And this is the advice for Boston in particular: fail faster, right? It's not comfortable. This is hard work. Figure out what doesn't work, then do the next thing. That is fundamentally the work of being an adaptive problem solver and getting there. And then the final thing is, please don't ever forget that this is possible. This work of ending youth homelessness is possible. We have done it with veterans. We have done it with chronically homeless adults. Be kind to one another. It's possible. It is wonderful to be here with you all.
Thank you so much, Megan, for joining us today, and even more so for what you're doing around the country. We have really loved partnering with you. We knew your voice and perspective would add greatly to today's event. And now, the reason we are all here today to celebrate some amazing grantees. To introduce our honorees in each of our priority areas, please join me in welcoming our National Director of Programs at the Liberty Mutual Foundation, Claire Shaw.
Thank you, please. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. And I'd like to invite David and Mayor Walsh to join me here as we recognize each of our partners. Yeah, it's exciting. This is a good part. Not that Megan wasn't great and awesome, as always, and Amina and Melissa. She is awesome. Okay, first up is Kelly Turley, representing Mass Coalition for the Homeless and the Teen Change effort, where they're working with student support teams and social workers in 2 select Boston public schools. Thank you, Kelly, for your work. Kelly is also an awesome advocate. If you want to know the legislation that's brewing, she's got her thumb on it. Thank you, Kelly. Next up, Kim Borman, if you could come up, please. Boston Homeless Immigrant Youth Project of the Irish International Immigrant Center. They have allowed over hundreds of youth to get counseling and free legal representation, and over 90 young people last year got documentation, which allows them jobs, apartments, a future, all sorts of important things. So we want you all to know one another and be able to make those connections. Thank you, Kim. Leslie Suggs, if you could come up, please, from Home for Little Wanderers. Everyone knows the work of the home, and this particular permanency initiative is going to help make connections for youth and young adults who are with years of foster care engagement who are aging out of the system. Thank you, Leslie. Barry Bach, if you could come up and join us. Boston Healthcare for the Homeless Project. The work they do in the shelters and in the streets is known by everyone far and wide. It's a model that everyone is copying around the country, and we thank you for your work on the van and in Bridge and every place else. Thank you, guys. Next, we're going to be joined by Ann Silver from Boston CASA. And Boston CASA is concentrating on a vulnerable population of transitioning out of foster care, the Transition Age Youth Advocacy Project. And the unique feature is many of their mentors actually have life experience in the foster care system. So they're bringing their own skills and knowledge. Thank you. Barbara Best, if you could come up, Barbara from Silver Lining Mentoring. And Colby. Okay, it's a twofer. It's wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, both of you. And Silver Linings Learn and Earn program is bringing one-to-one permanent connections to youth in foster care, introducing education and workforce development. Thank you. Jonathan Regis, if you could come up, please. Jonathan. I just jumped ahead, Bob, sorry. Jonathan, thank you. JRI is actually being recognized for its work in two categories, permanent connections and stable housing. The Youth Harbors does the advocacy work in the schools, and the health housing provides stipends and support. Thank you, Jonathan. Now, Cambridge Family and Children's Services. Bob Gittens, you can come up. Thank you, Bob. And they have expanded to go up to age 23, working with young and at-risk parents and older foster youth, and have made real connections with the state's permanency connection. Thank you, Bob. The next category is looking at health and well-being. We're going to be joined by Jane Powers, Fenway Community Health Center. Fenway is working with Youth on Fire, which was a program of AIDS Action, and does housing search and services for youth and young adults focusing on LGBTQ youth. Thank you, Jane. Next is Elizabeth Jackson, no stranger to anyone in this room. Bridge Over Troubled Waters with the street outreach, the number of programs that they offer. They'll be increasing the reach of their street teams and the medical van hours. Next, a new person to the full, Sophia Geralt, is representing SMART from the start. They have initiated a program that's going to be looking at healthy outcomes, mental wellness, and empowerment through Address the Stress. And they're particularly looking at young parents in public housing. Thank you, Sophia. There are 5 collaborators who are wonderful in the education and workforce development field. Leslie Reed, if you can come up from Madison Park. Madison Park has programs that offer a high-set job training and mental health services for opportunity youth who have lots of challenges. And they're doing all they can to prevent homelessness there at MBTC. Thank you. Break Time Cafe, Tony, Shu, and Connor, perhaps? Okay. So we thank you for this youth-run effort and for your commitment to try and provide work experience to homeless youth. Okay, thank you. Lynn Sanders is representing Friends of Opportunity Youth Boston, which is a consortium that has a lot of city agencies, the PIC, Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, Bridge, St. Francis House, and they're going to be doing research and developing really good data about what works for employment of young people who are experiencing homelessness. Thank you, Lynn. Another face that everyone knows, John Drew, ABCD, our CAP agency. Whenever there's poverty at the heart of it, John and his team are working very hard, so we thank you very much for ABCD. They have 4 programs that are going to develop components that are going to specifically relate to young people experiencing homelessness around employment. Thank you, John. And our host, Jody Rosenbaum. Here at More Than Words, it's evident what they do. Wonderful staff, wonderful young people, really inspirational. And this is for the Social Enterprise Youth Development Program. We thank you for everything, Jody. The 5th and final group of organizations are those whose goals are to provide stable and supportive housing. We're going to begin with a newcomer to the fold, Steve Neville, if you can come up, University of Mass Boston and the UMass Foundation. There are many college students who are also experiencing housing instability, and this is a lot of effort that's happening around the state around getting the public colleges to step up and provide housing for students. Thank you, Steve, and thank you to the chancellors. Next is Hopewell with My First Place, Shahir Mustafa. Shahir is right there. They've developed the My First Place program off of national models, stable, secure housing, education, and employment services, with a lot of input from young people. Thank you, Shahir. Sarah Rosenkrantz, come up, Y2Y. Another name that all the young people in the room know, for sure. A lot of very valid and sincere, authentic services that they provide, and this is going to enable them to continue the work that they do serving young people in Greater Boston. Thank you. And the final tribute to the day, we're going to ask Mike Durkin to stand up. Thank you, Mike. We don't have a plaque for you. We just have our heartfelt thanks. United Way is going to be doing the community engagement implementation of the plan at the behest of the mayor, and we're very happy to be able to support that and work with you on the staffing for that. Thank you, and thank you to all our public agency partners in the room. You all are great. Thank you.
Amina, can we get a photo with you? Okay, one quick photo.
You're the star of the show.
And one more.
If I find out that Mayor Walsh is going to be so mad.
Wow, just one final round for those amazing, impressive, inspirational partners. Really, can't thank you all enough. Mayor Walsh, can't thank you enough for your leadership. It's just we're so proud to be a partner in this city. And Amina, you really rock. So, Amina, you got one more line, girl.
I'm coming. Sorry.
Oh, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, well, yes, I do, actually. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you to everyone here today. This announcement and all of the good work that you do means a lot to homeless youth. I can say that as someone who's been through it myself. Youth need care and support from their community, and I can see that coming from all of you here. Thank you. Thank you to my awesome co-host. And this is just such a special day for all of us. I hope you can hang out a bit and join us for the reception that will be following immediately in this reading room. Thank you.